Imagine being shackled your whole life, not having a say, being told what to do, what to eat, and how to dress every day, while constantly working for no pay and not for yourself. Abolitionists wanted not only to end the slave trade but to end slavery altogether. Many riots broke out and people didn't want to slavery, but many people still wanted slavery and it was still legal. Uncle Tom's Cabin starts with Mr. Shelby and his slave trader deciding how many slaves they need to sell to fill his debt. So he decides to sell Tom, a faithful and honest man. Eliza, another slave, overhears that her son is also to be traded away and makes a split-second decision to run away to Canada that night. Her husband, George Harris, tells her he is also running away and they should meet up. Eliza takes off that night and the slaveholder, Mr. Hadley, follows her and almost catches her. She escapes Mr. Hadley by floating across the Ohio River on a piece of ice. Mr. Hadley sends slave catchers after. Tom and Mr. Hadley leave to the south to catch Eliza. En route, Tom saves a little girl from drowning. He is sold to the father to be his daughter's personal slave, and while the father and daughter like and respect him, the girl's mother is cruel and like others. Tom grows fond of the little girl Eva, and they discuss their Christian faith to each other daily. Eva is ill and she knows that she will die, so she calls all the slaves into a meeting about her love for God. And then she gives one of her blonde curls to each slave so they will remember her. Meanwhile, Eliza and her husband George are reunited in a Quaker camp. From there they escape to Canada successfully. Tom is sold to a new slave owner, Simon Legree, an evil and violent man who works his slaves until they die, then buys new ones for cheap. Despite Legree's treatment, Tom keeps his honest and kind behavior. Tom tries to persuade two women who Legree uses for prostitutes to escape. Legree finds out about it and beats Tom to death, though it takes days for Tom to die. However, in the meantime, his old master's son arrives to emancipate Tom, but he is too late. The two female slaves that escaped end up on the same boat as Mr. Shelby. Cassie confesses her story to him, realizing that George's heart is soft to the plight of escaping slaves. The woman on the ship confesses her story to George as well, and it turns out that she is George Harris's sister. George Shelby relates that George Harris married Eliza and escaped to Canada. Cassie, overhearing the conversation, puts two and two together and realizes that Eliza is her daughter, who was taken long before. Shelby helps find the girl's family, so even though Tom's life ended in tragedy, his life caused much happiness. The reason that Uncle Tom's Cabin was such a hit is because the books showed the cruelty that people were put through while they were slaves and how many of them still kept a kind, honest heart. And abolitionists were a key part of starting and ending the Civil War because of the things that they did.